Welcome back to On Air B&B Football with Just Bryce today. Today I'm coming at you with college football top 12 teams in 12 minutes. Before we get into that, make sure you like, subscribe, do all that good stuff for the videos. And please help us reach our goal of me and Brandon getting out to stadiums, talking to you, the fans, having fun, doing all that good stuff, tailgating. We can't do that without your all's help, so please help us do that, and let's get into it. So at 12, I'm going to do a little change up. Got USC. They had LSU this week, had a good statement win in a primetime game on Sunday night. Miller Moss put that team on his back on that last game-winning drive. That USC defense, which is basically the same defense as last season, it's just a more experienced defense. They have a few transfer portal guys that they brought in this year, but mostly that same defense. And then Lincoln Riley, of course, he outcoached Brian Kelly. Had a great offensive game plan, especially on that last drive, setting Miller Moss up to lead them down for that game-winning drive. So I'm putting USC at 12. I think they can be a kind of a sneaky, dangerous team this year and possibly sneak into the playoffs. At 11, keeping Utah Utes there. They had Southern Utah this past week, but I mean, it's Southern Utah. They did what they were supposed to do. Cam Rising was very solid, very good. 10 for 15, 250, 5 tutties. He was efficient. That it wasn't that great of a test for Utah. Like I said in the first video, they don't have a very hard schedule this year. It was a dominant win. They have Baylor upcoming this week. I'm looking for another dominant win. At 10, I got Miami. They had Florida. They went to the Swamp. They took care of business. I was a little scared at first. The Swamp was rocking. It was looking like Miami could be on a little bit of an upset watch, maybe. I was a little scared, but they went in there. It was close, around the first quarter. Cameron Ward had that early kind of dumb sidearm interception that he threw, but after that, he took care of business. I think he threw it for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. I'm kind of thinking, if you take that interception out, actually, of course you can't, but if you take that out, he looked great. So I'm kind of thinking he's a sneaky Heisman contender this season if he keeps it up. But we'll see how that goes. And the ACC it's Miami and everybody else now. Florida State is 0-2 now. Clemson had a loss against Georgia, which they didn't look great, but I think Miami's the ACC is Miami's to lose. At 9, got Missouri breaking the top 12. I didn't want to leave Missouri out of my last top 12, but I had them just at 13 last time. But Missouri looks dangerous. They are fast. They are explosive. Luther Burden he's a very explosive playmaker. Only got 3 catches, I think, for like 40 yards. Had a touchdown, but he's very explosive. Going to be a very dangerous weapon for that Missouri team, especially in those bigger games upcoming. They have Bama, they have Texas A&M, they have some bigger games in a few weeks. But I expect Missouri to be a very, very dominant team this season. Brady Cook was efficient, but he didn't have to do much because that defense was flying around too. They had Murray State at home, but they were just flying around the field. At 8, we got a little bit of a drop off with Oregon. So I'm not saying I'm not dropping Oregon down to 8 because I'm totally out on Oregon. I'm not out on them at all. But Oregon, it was weird, their game versus Idaho. They were at home. Dylan Gabriel was 41 for 49, 380 and 2 touchdowns. That's 83%. That's an 83% completion percentage. When you look at the stats of him and that game, you're like, how did they only score 24 points? How was it a 24-14 game? It just makes no sense. They just couldn't finish drives off. They would get all the yards down the field and then just punt it was just a weird game for them. The defense was good, but it wasn't anything special. Didn't show anything special versus Idaho. Oregon's taking a little bit of a drop. I'm hoping they can kind of bounce back in the next few weeks. At 7, I got Penn State. So they had a statement win at WVU. It was a very sloppy start from both teams. Penn State finally brought it in a little bit and started playing better the start of the second quarter. But it was a little bit of they were on upset watch. For sure, there's a lot of people picking WVU to upset them. It was like a 10-point They were a 10-point favorite at one point. They were an 8.5 favorite a few hours before the game, and then like an hour before the game, it dropped to like 7.5. So I was like, why does it keep dropping? I got scared, of course. But Penn State finally has the big play capabilities. They got a new OC. I can't say his last name, but he, as Gus Johnson said, is the big Zamboni. I'm liking what I see. So, with that being said, Drew Aller finally took shots down the field. Was one a PI or an OPI? Probably, but it's fine. So, Drew Aller is possibly the best quarterback in the Big Ten. Davis Warren is starting for Michigan, which I did not see that coming, but he didn't look efficient in a game versus Fresno State. Will Howard looked good in the game against Akron. I think Drew Aller is the best quarterback in the Big Ten, especially right now. That defense is just flying around the field. It's going to do what it does. I'm excited for the season with Penn State. Number 6 is Bama. So they took care of business, had Western Kentucky at home. Jalen Milroe had more carries than he did passing attempts. He had 10 carries, and he was 8 for 9 or 7 for 9 on passing attempts, 200 yards, 5 touchdowns in total. Two of those 3 passing touchdowns went to the freshman Ryan Williams, who's only 17 years old. He reclassed to come to Alabama this year, and I think he's going to be another great Alabama receiver. He's one of those freshman receivers this year that could be a big part of their team's success. Number 5, I got Ole Miss. They had Furman at home. Wasn't, a tough test at all. They put up 76 points, though. I mean, that's a lot in any football game against anybody. Jackson Dart was slinging the rock around, 418, 5 touchdowns, had hit Trey Harris for 8 catches for 179 and 2 touchdowns. Just Ole Miss was just dominant. I think we're going to see a lot of offensive dominance from Ole Miss this year, and I'm excited to see some of the tests they have upcoming this season. At 4, you got Notre Dame. Notre Dame on the road went into Kyle Field, took care of business. Kyle Field was absolutely rocking in prime time on Saturday night. It was crazy how that field was going, and Notre Dame went in there. It was a close game through most of the first half and most of the third quarter, but Riley Leonard didn't look fantastic, but he didn't turn the ball over. That young offensive line for Notre Dame held up most of the night. Notre Dame just went in there and took care of business. Defense was solid. They did what they needed to do on the road in probably one of the toughest environments in all of college football. And then Texas number 3, Texas at home versus Colorado State. Ewers started slow, but he took care of business. He shared the ball around a lot. None of those Texas receivers really had a big game. None of them had any crazy numbers, but everyone got involved. They took care of business versus Colorado State. They do have a huge test going to the Big House this week against Michigan, which is a game I'm super excited about. This will be a very tough game for Texas, especially because the Big House is going to be rocking in Michigan. At 2, Ohio State. They had Akron, started off very, very slow. Will Howard did look very good. He was getting the ball to his receivers. They just weren't making the plays. They finally got it going a little bit more. Jeremiah Smith, though, it's another freshman receiver that looks great, and he looks like he's going to be the next star wide receiver at Ohio State. And, of course, that defense, they took care of business as well. But at number 1, of course, it's the Dogs. Got Georgia. Very, very slow start for them. But in the second half, took care of business against Clemson. They just look as dominant as they always do. Kirby Smart's got his team under control. Carson Beck looks like he did last year. Going to be a Heisman favorite, of course. But Georgia was just dominant, just like they always have been. But yeah, that's the college football top 12 teams in 12 minutes. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you help us reach our goal, get into those stadiums, seeing you guys. I would love to get around to all these college stadiums, see some games, hang out with you guys, do all that good stuff. But make sure you're liking the video. Make sure you're subscribing. Share with everybody you know whether they like football or not, because they're going to like us. They're going to like us at some games. Going to like us at some stadiums. Leave down in the comments where you disagree with me. I know there's a ton of you. These are my rankings. These are my top 12 teams. So, of course, they look different from the AP top 12 or top 25 or top 12 or whatever they are now. But yeah, leave in the comments where I'm wrong and all that stuff. Thank you guys.